Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Wheel of Horror. This is episode 15, I think now. So yay, let's go. Series is staying strong, and everyone seems to love it. So I'm gonna keep on keeping on with this series. But we have no new movies this week, so let's just spin and see what we're gonna get. But I will fight everybody if I get the Wheel of Punishment again. So let's see. It is going to be In the Tall Grass. So thank you, Quentin, for suggesting it, and let's get to the review. In the Tall Grass was released in 2019 and was directed by Vincenzo Natali, who is also known for doing Cube, which I've already reviewed, so you guys should watch that review because it's really good. But this movie stars Patrick Wilson and is about a brother and a sister who hear the voice of a young boy in tall grass begging for help, so they go in to try to rescue him. But soon they can't find their way out and are also in need of saving. So going into this movie, before it was even recommended, my friend Brianna had watched it and she absolutely hated it. When I told her today that I was watching it, she was like, ew, terrible movie. I'll probably put up the screenshot of the text to show you, but she was like, ew. So after that, I kind of wanted to see like what other people thought about it before watching it. Not like spoilers or anything like that, but it seemed like it was split 50-50 with people liking it or people hating it. And I was interested to see where I would land on the spectrum, and I was excited to see how Quentin, the person who recommended this movie, which thank you for recommending it, how he felt about it. So I messaged him, and he's on the team of, he likes it. And so I decided to watch the movie. And I am proud to say that I am on the team, drumroll, of liking it. I thought it was alright. I don't think it's the best movie, but I don't think it's bad. I think there's a good middle ground between this movie. Although I can understand why people don't like it, which I will talk about within the cons of this movie. But before we talk about some cons, let's talk about some pros. So for me, the biggest pro of this movie is how beautiful the cinematography and the imagery is. It is shot gorgeously. There's so many just shots of like this tall grass, and it doesn't feel like wind is just blowing in the tall grass. It feels like it's a heartbeat. And there's so many times where you'll get a shot of the grass and like there will be wind, but it doesn't look like it's being blown by the wind. It seems like it has its own beat. And you can see it because like at one point the grass like goes like down and then up and down and up, like as if it was breathing. And just imagery like that. There's so many cool shots within the movie of like looking through the grass, different characters like after they get muddy and disgusting, close up to animals in the grass. It is just shot so magnificently, and that was something I really appreciated. Another pro that I have with this movie is the plot. It's such an interesting concept, and before it was made into a movie, this was a Stephen King novella, because it's a shorter story, but it is such a cool plot. I mean, they really throw you right into the story as soon as you start, which part of it I have as a con, which I'll talk about later in the cons, but it doesn't take a lot of time to get them into the grass. And from then on out, then it's just them in the grass basically for the whole movie. There's one part where they're not, which I don't want to spoil what it is. It's, they're just not in the grass. But it's honestly such a cool concept. And I think the movie does make a good attempt at portraying the novella. I also absolutely loved Patrick Wilson in this movie. He's so amazing in different movies. He's really found a niche in the horror genre, being in Insidious, The Conjuring, and now in The Tall Grass. He does a great job in his role. I don't really want to spoil too much about his character because I am going to recommend this movie, but He has some very interesting dialogue, and all I'm going to say is that if there is ever going to be a remake of The Shining, I would love if Patrick Wilson was Jack Torrance. And that's all I'm going to say. And also I'll say one of his lines where he's like, "Everything is grass." So this is going to be a little spoiler right here. So Tina put a timestamp of after this pro, but you know, there's your spoiler warning. I really like the use of time loops in this movie. I am a big fan of having time loops. I love movies that deal with time, all of that. And I feel like this movie does a great job with portraying it. I do think it falls a little flat in giving us clear set rules. But the reason they don't try to explain that to us is because the characters don't know these rules. So they don't feel the need to give us these clear, this is this, this is that. And when the character finds out a rule, we kind of figure it out, but they really don't learn many rules. They only learn like one or two. And I just wish that we had a little bit more clear guide to what the rules were within the grass. The last pro that I have of this movie, which a lot of people could probably find it as a con because it is really disgusting, is what happens to Becky's character in the third act of the movie. There isn't much I could say about it without spoiling, but you'll kind of know when it happens. All I'll say is she'll have a little run-in with another character and runs away. And from then on out, her character deals with some stuff, and it is shot beautifully. It is so disgusting, but I really appreciate it. But now, since we discussed some pros, let's talk about some cons, with my first con being the relationship between Cal and Becky, who are the brother and sister. So I've already said that one of the things I didn't really like is how they just go quickly into the grass. And the reason I don't like that is because it sacrifices learning more about the relationship between Cal and Becky. We learned stuff about Cal's character from the beginning, not much, but we could kind of start to gain some footing on how we think his character is going to end up, which it kind of goes in the complete opposite way, but that's for another time for you to watch the movie. But I wish there was more setup between these characters and discussing their relationship with each other, because they try to force something. I don't even want to say force something, because you could kind of see it throughout the movie, and they do a really good job of showing it within the second and third act. But I think the setup within the first act was very weak with that. So when this big thing finally happens within the third act, it doesn't land as hard as it could have. That's what I'll say about that. But yeah, one of the cons I have is the relationship not being set up as well between Cal and Becky. One more con I do have with the movie is the third act. There's a lot of aspects of it where they try to do too much, and it didn't feel like they paced themselves well for some of this overly ambitious stuff that they were going for within this third act. And for that, the third act kind of suffers a little bit, but it is very satisfying midway through the third act. But the ending is a little bit weird, and there isn't much I could say with it without spoiling, but it just doesn't feel, it feels kind of forced, that they didn't set up stuff before it well enough, so the ending feels a little bit forced. And I think that was the biggest issue within the whole movie, that they didn't set some things up well enough, so the payoff of these big events didn't always hit. And I think that's where a lot of people didn't like the movie, because it was getting too overambitious, too weird, and, you know, you just shut down because you're like, no, I don't care anymore. And I think that's kind of what happened to some people watching the movie, whereas I could kind of see where they were going, so I appreciated it more, I guess would be the best way to describe it. But I do see how people don't like this movie. So, overall, I'm going to give this movie a 6 out of 10. And I would recommend it. If you're into weird sci-fi Stephen King novel, weird stuff happening all the time stuff, then you're going to like it. But if you don't like that, you're not going to like it because Stephen King writes some weird... So thank you everyone for watching, and thank you again to Quentin for recommending this movie. I enjoyed it. If you have any other suggestions for movies for me to watch, leave them down in the comments below. But let's flash forward to the next review.